present, have a presentation of Abe Sensei's Shodo. So, and then kind of celebration of a mentor and disciple, Abe Seiseki Sensei and Ueshiba Morihei Sensei. So they exchange Shodo and Aikido and the art of kokyu, breathing. So a little bit maybe beyond understanding for those who are not familiar with the Aikido, but pretty much I believe people who participated today is know Aikido and Abe Sensei. So anyway, so we're gonna start. So let me explain first Doshinokai Foundation. Doshinokai Foundation will be focused mainly on promotion and learning the Do. You know, Aikido of Aikido, Do of, or way of. The beauty and spirituality behind the Japanese cultural heritage art, such as Ikebana. You know, last event, we did Ikebana presentation. It was beautiful. Ikebana, the way of flower arrangements, and Sado, the art of tea, which we have planned to some other time, and Sado, and Shodo today, Japanese calligraphy. Particularly Abe Sensei's Shodo art. We are fortunately I received so many pieces of wonderful and finest art for Abe Sensei wrote. So I received. So I try to introduce today. There are so many Japanese cultural heritage arts, but they all share their simplicity, societal influence, the dedication of their historical originators, and influence of their modern practitioners. In this way, their cultural identities are not separate from Aikido. In fact, they directly influence the way of Aikido as expressed in many of Abe Sensei's writings, his teachings, his way of moving, and his activities throughout his life. So today, we will have the introduction and presentation of one of the finest Shodo artists and our Aikido mentor, Seiseki Abe Sensei's artworks. Let's seek and discuss about the essential viewpoint at the art of peace. Please enjoy the event. Okay, thank you. And today, actually this year is the 10-year anniversary when Abe Sensei passed away. So it's a great opportunity for us to let's celebrate his life and with that, many calligraphies today. Anyway, thank you. Okay.
Okay, now the video.
Okay, now let's show video prepared by David Banner. Just a moment.
In this short introduction to the Japanese art of Shodo, we will learn a little bit about written Japanese, a little bit about Shodo, and learn about one of the premier Shodo artists of the 20th century, Abe Seiseki Sensei. By the end of this video, you will be able to recognize the different styles of Shodo, the difference between written Chinese and Japanese, and know more about Shodo itself. Around the 5th century in the current era, the Japanese people adopted the Chinese writing system, a system made up of word pictures called kanji. This chart depicts the current Joyo kanji. Even though there are over 85,000 different kanji in Japanese, knowing these 2,136 will give a person functional literacy in written Japanese. The main difference now between written Chinese and Japanese is the kana alphabet of all Japanese syllables sounds called hiragana. The main difference between the two languages is that you will see hiragana used in Japanese but not in Chinese. A, I, U, E, O are the 5 basic sounds. Adding different consonants to these 5 sounds yields the 46 hiragana of Japanese. Hiragana are used as single syllables or articles when writing Japanese. Another similar set of kana called katakana is used for writing words borrowed from other languages. This chart shows hiragana and katakana next to each other. There are other types of kana, like the pronunciation aids called furigana. Furigana appear next to kanji to indicate the pronunciation for that kanji. You can see furigana in train station name signs and also manga, the Japanese-style comic books. Japanese can be written left to right, but is traditionally written right to left and top to bottom. For the Westerner, Japanese books start at the back, as do manga, even after they're translated into English. Finally, as we start looking at Shodo, it is important to understand that both kanji and hiragana have a stroke order when writing the characters by hand. This hiragana chart shows the stroke order for each of these kana. Where a Western dictionary is alphabetized, a kanji dictionary is organized by how many strokes it takes to write a particular symbol. Unlike Western calligraphy, the Do of Shodo tells us that Shodo can be a path or way with a capital W. The tools for Shodo are not complicated. They include the fude, or brush, usually a bamboo handle and bristles from hairs from a horse, sheep, raccoon, goat, or weasel. The width of the brush determines the width of the stroke and the final size of the kanji. Sumi is the ink. It is made with soot and animal oils and comes in a hard stick. To make the ink, the sumi stick is ground with a little out of water against an ink stone called a suzuri. One section of the suzuri is used for grinding with the lower part to catch the ink. This is a critical step because the thickness of the ink must be just right for the best shodo. This takes some practice. Kami is the common word for paper, while hanshi is the specific type of paper for shodo and is often handmade. A shitajiki, or underlayment, is used to catch the ink that might bleed through the hanshi onto the work surface, usually a table or tatami. The shitajiki can be newspaper or felt or other cloth. Bunshin is the paperweight used to help hold the hanshi while writing, especially when writing larger works. Now that the shodo artist has set up his or her workspace, it is time to begin writing. In Japanese shodo, there are 3 styles of writing: kaisho, gyosho, and sosho. With kaisho, no liberties are taken with the traditional strokes. The kanji is easily read and easily recognizable, appearing similar to what you might see in a book. In a gyosho-style work, the strokes may be abbreviated a bit. There's a bit more flow in the work. Corners may be more rounded. Sosho is sort of like cursive writing. Many liberties are taken, and it might take some practice to be able to read the characters written, even for those familiar with Japanese. The styles are sometimes explained as hard, soft, and flowing. Now the task becomes more difficult. There is a famous quote: "The Tao that can be spoken is not the true Tao." Shodo no Do, the Do of Shodo, is the same Do as Kado, Sado, Kyudo, Aikido, Karate Do, Judo, and many others. It says that Shodo is a path. It is more than just writing kanji on a paper. The kanji for the Do of Shodo is the same as the kanji for the Tao in Chinese. Seiseki Abe Sensei, who passed in 2011 at the age of 96, was a master at Shodo as well as the art of Aikido. He sought out Aikido training because he recognized they share an attention to breathing that was central to the practice of each art. Abe Sensei would frequently demonstrate the similarities between the two arts by writing a character, then using the same kanji stroke order, the same way of writing to throw someone. Abe Sensei's instructions for writing Shodo are these. Everything returns to a point. If the point is extended, a line is formed. Contract the line, it returns to a point. The technique of making corners from that line. A slight spring motion to form the tail at the end of a line. When you understand the above 3 points, you will be able to write 2,000 to 3,000 characters using just these strokes. In other schools of Shodo, many techniques are taught that relate to how to make a line a certain shape, for example, the method to bring the fude or brush away from a paper to make a point at the end of the stroke. In several Shodo seminars and demonstrations, I never saw Abe Sensei teach any of these line-making techniques. He taught how to breathe when doing Shodo. He taught how to create one point in the thousands of bristles of the fude. He taught how to connect the fude and the point made in the bristles of the fude to the hara or body center, and he taught how to move that point with the whole body once it was all connected. These points are central to Abe Sensei's Shodo way. Doing Shodo in this way is both physically and psychologically demanding, taking great concentration and preparation. What makes this method special is that people with even less knowledge of Japanese than you have seen in this video can practice making a point, and a line, and a plus sign, which in Japanese is a kanji for the number 10, or one of the simplest kanji. There are words in Japanese that do not translate well into English, and ki is one of them. Yet ki is central to Abe Sensei's way of doing Shodo. Ki has been translated as energy, or spirit, or even breath. It is difficult to define. It is ephemeral. It is also something that is present when breathing, making a point in the bristles of the fude, connecting to that point, moving that point with everything together, and creating a living kanji that is more than all these parts.
Yes, it's under Sensei.
Okay, so sorry, another little bit technical problem, but now should be okay. Anyway, so did you like the video? A little bit introduction. Yeah. Anyway, then here, let me again reintroduce Abe Sensei, Abe Seiseki Sensei, Seiseki Abe Sensei. And his real name, actually, birth name is Shunichi. So that's why sometimes here, this is Shunichi. He put his name, his original name, or sometimes Seiseki, Seiseki Abe. Anyway, so let me introduce again his little kind of basic biography. Seiseki Abe Sensei was born in March 26, 1915. He started practicing Shodo in 1934. His father was also a Shodo teacher. In 1948, 3 years later, after the Pacific War, he became a Shodo teacher at the high school in Osaka. A while later, as a Shodo practitioner, he felt plateaued. One day, he attended Misogi meeting organized by Kenzo Futaki Sensei, who was also a Morihei Ueshiba's close student and gave young Abe Seiseki Sensei great inspiration on Kokyuho in Misogi.
They say it's hard to hear Sensei.
Hey?
Hard to hear. Speak up.
A diet and Kojiki. And Futaki Sensei suggested him to meet Morihei Ueshiba. In 1952, Abe Sensei met Morihei Ueshiba at Bansen Tanaka Sensei's dojo in Osaka. So Bansen Tanaka Sensei is one of all Sensei's closest disciples too. So where he decided to practice Aikido under Morihei Ueshiba. Through training Aikido, Abe Sensei realized that there was the same Kokyuho, the method of breathing, in between Shodo, Misogi, and Aikido. So he was very impressed on Kokyuho. Since 1954, he began to teach Shodo to Morihei Ueshiba until 1969, a few months before O-sensei passed away. Almost 15 years. Abe Sensei was sharing and teaching O-sensei and Shodo. And O-sensei taught him Aikido. So, and there's a common point, there's a Kokyu, breathing method. That he really mentioned to me. He traveled, so Abe Sensei, he traveled to Los Angeles, Australia, France, Russia, Peru, for sharing and teaching Aikido, Shodo, and Misogi Kokyuho. Abe Sensei passed away on May 18, 2011, 10 years ago. He was a member of Nitten, or Japan Fine Art Exhibition, and he was one of the judges of the Nitten. Also, he worked on a monument in Iwama. In 1989, he received the award of the Budo Kourosha Meritorious Person from Japan Budo Councils. Also in 1994, he received the medal with dark blue ribbon from the Cabinet Office of Japan. Abe Sensei passed away in May 18, 2011. So he was 96 years old. Well, let me share quickly one of memory. I remember that the last celebration of his 88-year-old party, I participated. So he said to a couple hundred of young students, mostly high school and college students. It was a very unique speech. He said, the secret of the long, enjoyable life was to eat brown rice, chewing thoroughly, and kokyuho, or breathing method, as your daily routine. I really remember that still. Anyway, so we'd like to, little later I'm going to tour to the Abe Sensei each piece. But okay, let me finish Abe Sensei's biograph, a brief biograph now. So now, maybe David, are you coming?
Oh, yeah. Sure.
And let us start with share, remembering Abe Sensei, and maybe let me put, and how, get this impression. And so, by the way, let me introduce first. This is one of our students, David. So also he training Aikido almost 30 years. Yeah, and he met Abe Sensei, one of the people. And so he can share, and as an American, instead I'm talking about how I inspired, and maybe he can a little bit share about Abe Seiseki Sensei, some story or some memory to begin with this. And
I think my first memory is I started at Tenshin Dojo in 1990, and Abe Sensei came the first time in 1991, and I was young at the time, but not a lot of money, and the Abe Sensei sessions were very, very expensive. I couldn't train, but I could watch. And one of the things that Abe Sensei did is he would demonstrate a character. He would demonstrate a kanji and paint a kanji, and then he would do the same stroke order, the same motion to throw his student, who was very large and husky, and it looked fake. We're in Hollywood. It looked fake. He was bouncing around and flying through the air, 15 or 20 feet, and it looked fake. But it was for real. And then finally I got the opportunity on Abe Sensei's third visit in Bukoima to actually take Ukemi. So it was a great experience. He was very humble, very funny. But that's we can talk about Abe Sensei and his Shodo, which was also very amazing.
Yeah, and his very unusual experience. Went to Japan and met Abe Sensei, and not only him, we have many people while Abe Sensei was alive and visiting. So maybe should ask.
Let's see if. So come on over here. So let's find. Let me go to the gallery view. Yes.
All right. I remember also the first I saw Abe Sensei being very impressed with everything that he was doing. The first thing I remember that was so shocking was once. And I thought, okay, well, he's this old guy and he's so small, take it easy on him. So I'm an old guy too, but even then I was in my 50s. But I was pretty strong. So I went to grab him, and suddenly I was flying through the air. I wasn't aware that he touched me or anything. And so I got up and I thought to myself, okay, now I'm going to get you. Enough with this ego. And I went flying again. Unbelievable. So, as David said, a lot of what we saw, and a lot of what we've seen over the years about Aikido, it looks fake until you experience it. The one other thing that doesn't have to do with Shodo, but it does, was having class I was sitting on the bench. And Abe Sensei was talking, and Matsuoka Sensei was translating. And it was something, I can't remember what the conversation was, but he was 8 feet away from me. And he knocked me off the bench to prove a point. I'm not making this up. It's not BS. I was sitting 8 feet away from him. He couldn't touch me and he jumped in the air. But he moved in my direction and I fell off the bench. Then he stepped close to my head and somebody said, well, get up. I could not move. I spun around his foot like a butterfly pinned with a pin. I could not get up, I could not move, and he was not touching. So, for whatever that's worth, I'll never forget it. I've been not training, I still do Shodo practically every day. It still is, it's a preoccupation. When I go to a restaurant, I doodle Shodo kanji on the napkins. It's a preoccupation. But Abe Sensei was an extraordinary person, as you all know. And I just wanted to share those 2 experiences because they were incredible. It was like magic, but it was real. So, that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you, Sensei.
All right, Stephen.
Hey, everybody. I was lucky enough to visit Abe Sensei quite a bit and stay over there and learn from him. And when David was asking for people to make local videos or tell stories, I obviously didn't have a hard time coming up with one specific story. All of the lessons that he taught, which was amazing, I'm still kind of learning new layers of. And there were so many times that we were in Shodo lessons, and everything that he was specifically speaking of really did translate to Aikido. So I'll share one story. One day I was at his house, and most of the time that I went there, actually back in the day at Kenshin Dojo, we trained pretty hard, and when I would go over there, I'd come back and say, well, what did you learn? What did you talk about? And I think most of the time we talked about art, and we didn't talk about Aikido techniques or things like that. It was more philosophical, and the spirituality behind art, and that included the art of Aikido and martial arts. But as a creative person, bringing that out within your own art. And I was playing him, we had a very long conversation, and I was playing him some music, some African music, where there was a marimba piece where the person was playing with human bones to strike the instrument. And he was fascinated by it. He listened to it like 3 times. Talking about energy and ki in the bones, and how you bring, as an artist, you should bring that energy and that ki out, and of that to create your own art. You're using someone else's energy and life. And he started tying it into sword, and how specific swords were made by masters with ki, with creativity and energy to cut through things. But ultimately, your muscle won't make them stronger. It will only be your ki, your creativity, your energy that makes those swords cut, and then transfer into Shodo. And he's started talking about many of the brush, the point at which the brush hits the paper. And from a philosophical standpoint, he said this is one of the lessons that I'm still thinking about today, actually, in my own, I'm a musician and in my own playing, is this concept of the knockout, which is one point. And he would talk about that point where you hit the brush and connecting that with your center, and how that has to be done with breath, and it's your intention. He said, again, it's kind of hard to combine all of this stuff into one story, but the concept of knockout, he kept going back to this whole trip that I was in, whether it was breathing with misogi, even when you're doing misogi, which is a ritual Shinto cold water bath in the morning and breathing exercise. This thing kept coming up, whether it's something grabbing you, one point connected to your center. He said this point was like this minuscule, almost this tiny little circle within your center that is constantly spinning. And you have to, when you're breathing, you're connecting that to one point, and that will allow your creativity to come out. And this conversation, again, was amazing because we were talking about Western art as well, and Jackson Pollock, who his brush never touched the canvas, but it had a flow to it, it had specific intention and motion. And he started talking about how, in a way, and again, I'm not saying it right because it was translated, but it was similar to the kokyu breath and movement of throwing without touching in Aikido. All of that is an extension of your kokyu, your breath, from knockout, from your center. And again, to this day, even when I'm holding a drumstick or thinking about a point in a song when I'm playing, or creating space in a song when I'm playing, or in the studio is so precise. I'm learning about these newer levels are coming back to me of all the lessons, the simple things that he told me about breath. And for him, he always came back to, and I'll leave you with this, the secret to all of this stuff is breath and breathing. And you'll hear Sensei say kokyu a lot, but again, at this point in my life, I find I still do misogi regularly, and it's amazing how it really does all come down to breath and connecting to your body that way. I'm sorry if I wasn't that focused. I literally, trying to put, and Sensei will back me up on this, trying to kind of explain what Abe Sensei says sometimes, or in the, in these deep conversations. He was an amazing guy, and he was very, very specific about his words that he chose. And it's kind of hard to put that together, but for me, I wanted to share with you. That's the concept of knockout in one form was one of the most amazing lessons that he gave me that I'm still thinking about today. So thank you for letting me share my story. I really think about him all the time, and I miss him greatly. I'm very appreciative that I had him as a teacher. We get to learn from him. So thank you, Sensei and David, for doing this. I think it's so important. Thank you.
Okay. Instead of I'm trying to read this Abe Sensei's word, but instead, let us introduce Abe Sensei's artwork. So I put here a big one. So there are several things going to Japan Fine Art. As you know, maybe you, from the center. This is Ueshiba Morihei Sensei. And let me quickly. This is a copy, by the way. Abe Sensei gave me, O Sensei wrote with his index finger. Takemusu Omikami. Haya Takemusu Omikami. About Aikido. So with his finger, very unusual, one in the world, but that's not the real one, by the way. Yeah, he made a copy and gave it to me before he passed away. And then the down, this one, is Abe Sensei wrote. Actually, this one is when I invited Abe Sensei first time 30 years ago, and I took him to my previous teacher's office in Warner Brothers. So he saw big tree. So I asked, maybe just take a bark of the tree. So, and then he wrote for me. It's Katsu Hayahi. So this message is, he sent me a message. So the meaning is win constantly. Quickly, as quick as possible. He said, win faster than the speed of light. It is very unique expression. Anyway, and then you see, so those went to one of the fine art, Japan fine art. This Take Mikazuchi. So the dojo name, Mikazuchi Dojo, named after this Take Mikazuchi. This is a person, 1300 years ago, one of the oldest literature in Japan called Kojiki. So described. So as a deity of martial arts. So Abe Sensei gave me this one. So and so this person, how he fight with this situation, Morotedori. So when someone grab his arm with Morotedori, grab his one arm with the two hands. So his Take Ikazuchi arm became icicle. Icicle is, cannot grab. So this is like original kokyu waza, kokyu technique. So that's why Abe Sensei gave me the two piece, and I put in this dojo, Ikazuchi dojo. And so, and then this left, the other side is also one of the Kojiki, came from the Kojiki. My favorite, by the way, sorry, that's all quick, just quick. But my favorite is this one. Of course, everything my favorite, of course, especially because Sensei wrote, this one it's not submitted to fine art or submitted to any museum or submitted to, he wrote, I don't use the terminology roughly, and freely. He wrote freely, expressed on the paper. So means, kore takara, means that we have many moments. Time is time and space. Maybe a space or time, or maybe good thing and bad thing, got encouraged, sometimes discouraged. So many moments, a treasure, really. So anyway, and then we can discuss, and you can discuss. So he put his birth name, Shunichi. So this is once in a while I was watching in front of this calligraphy and making moment and next moment. What is the moment now? So this gave me think about my distance in Bujutsu, practical approach. Anyway, and so those are the big piece. Very fortunately, he trusted me. And behind the scenes, because he gave me as a gift because I'm living in the United States. So he thought maybe I'm a person who will be able to introduce his artwork. So that's why probably he trusted me. So then this is one of my dreams and it came true. And yes, today, for instance, to American people, introduce Abe Sensei's calligraphy. Of course, it's better to you guys come to visit dojo to take a look, but unfortunately, time not allowed to, no one come to the dojo. But at least, maybe you can feel. Let me quickly, Abe Sensei, this is Abe Sensei's word, about art. He talks about between what can be seen, form, style, there is a space of what cannot be seen. Key, strength, timing, quiet simplicity. In other words, there is part that can be described and part that cannot be described. At any rate, you will improve through constant practice, and your works will gain in strength in that area that cannot be seen or described. This is what is called key. So here's a really key is we cannot have answer. He cannot have answer, but something you have to perceive. Something cannot see. Something can see. So then he left calligraphy. So and I put this one. This is a kana, Japanese alphabet. Always he taught teachers makoto, integrity. So I believe his life is really, he penetrated integrity toward all sensei, Ueshiba Morihei. So he penetrated until last minute of his life, mentor disciple, what he learned from Ueshiba Morihei, and then what he exchanged with Ueshiba Morihei, and so he wanna pass on the next generation. That his really hard. So he left so many calligraphy, and I have kind of responsibility to share. Of course, I have no answer. Cannot give you, but something you can look for the answer. What it is, what's key. Anyway, then let me introduce. These are Ueshiba Morihei Sensei's poems written by Abe Sensei. So by the way, before, I put this in the center. This is Ueshiba Morihei Sensei's direct handwriting. But this piece is, I think Ueshiba Morihei Sensei wrote this piece before he met Abe Sensei, by the way. Yeah, so one of my students, his name is Chuck Koran, who passed away.
Sensei, just hold on for a second, we're going to work on the audio. Something's wrong with the audio.
Oh, something wrong?
Yes.
Just now or?
For 5 minutes. For a minute or two. Try now.
Okay. Sorry, now everything okay? Can you hear? Sorry, another technical problem. I don't know from when I lost.
Maybe start talking about what Sensei did.
Okay, so this is all Sensei's calligraphy, his handwriting, by the way. But he wrote this one before. Well, almost the time he met Abe Sensei or before he met Abe Sensei. I mean, it's a little earlier time because his name shows different, Tsunemori, not Morihei. So it's a little, before. So anyway, All Sensei left so many poems, and he tried to teach his student and to us. But poem, you can read. How to read the poem is, you have to develop the, there is no answer. You need the poetic sense. So anyway, Abe Sensei gave me many poems which All Sensei wrote originally. So this one is Abe Sensei wrote. Is not, for the modern people, you can notice the style. Not noticeable. You see, if you learn Japanese, how to write kana, alphabet, or maybe little kanji, so you can read basically. So, and quickly, English translation. I know the poem, to translate poems, I know it's a little question difficult, but let's based on the word. Always and always pour yourself into technical training to face the multitude as if it were one. It's the way of the Shudosha practitioner. So, and then this one, another poem, O Sensei.
Michael is somehow usually let back in the meeting.
Blend with the universe of heaven and earth.
Okay.
Stand in the center of all. In your heart, take up the stance of the weight of the mountain echo. It's hard to understand mountain. One time I had a question to Abe Sensei. What is this meaning? And then he wasn't vague. He demonstrated in front of me. Katakegori. So ask opponent to grab tight. The moment opponent grab tight, power return to the opponent. Kind of echo. He immediately. But anyway, then he said that Matsuoka, you have to develop the power of in a single moment by using a whole body, return to immediately to the opponent. So anyway, through this poem, he was mentioned. And then this one, another poem, O Sensei poem, written by Abe Sensei. This is a little bit hard to understand, so I don't explain, but sorry. You can look, his stick part or thing, you see. So kind of again, you can perceive between, and not seeing. What cannot be seen? What can see? You see. So anyway, basically, he talks about this one is just basically talks about the void. Void, nothing, emptiness, except for blending with the void. There is no way to understand the way of Aiki. So he's trying to, there is for me the difficult to understand this one, but O Sensei is some secret in it. Anyway, and then let me continue to introduce this one. First of all, you can take a look again. Thick and thin. This is probably different from the other one. Everything has meaning, so you have to deal with the perception. You see, Aiki とは愛の何ですか愛気にてよろず力を働かし麗しきよと安く忘れ。This is a very
You're muted. Okay.
Okay, so this Shodo is, I'm sure there are many people with speed in my student. Abe Sensei wrote two poems, mostly often, one of them, about Aikido. Aiki ni te, again, let me read with Japanese first. Aiki ni te, yorozu chikara wo hatarakashi, uruashiki yo to yasuku wasubeshi. Means, mobilize all your power through Aiki. Build a beautiful world and a secure peace. And let's go next one.
Watch out for the cord.
Aiki to wa. Again, you can just take a look first. Really staring. Aiki to wa. 愛の力のもとにして愛はますます栄えていくべし means 愛 the root of the power of love, a love that must grow even broader. And go to the next. So, 誠はさらに誠に練り上げて天佑一条の身体を知れ。So especially he on purpose make a big one, this one. This is this part is seen, cannot seen, cannot be seen. Is oneness. Oneness of seeing and cannot seen. So anyway, in English translation is earnestly keep polishing the fundamentals and seek the truth of oneness of the universe. So those are pretty much, Abe Sensei gave me before he passed away as a message to me and to my student. So, and let me, so David, you can explain with this calligraphy. So one more Abe Sensei poem. So this is actually David. You can explain.
This is Abe Sensei came in 2006, and some students, he made one of O Sensei's waka. O Sensei, you have to come closer because it's your microphone. And so he made this, and of course Sensei has a translation, but then this particular...
cannot hear.
Oh.
Maybe should I?
No, it's okay. Somebody's just go ahead and give him the gearbox.
Okay. And so, Abe Sensei made these for some students, and then Matsuo Sensei says, "Oh, I can have this mounted with this style." So this particular style of mounting is called kakejiku. Kakejiku. So it's a special mounting style that's very traditional. So all these are the same kakejiku style. And then over here on this table, in 2006, before Sensei came, I had the fortunate, I gave myself a gift. I graduated from school from my master's program, and I gave myself a gift. I've been a teacher for a number of years. Basically, all the years that we've done Japan trips, I've been teaching, so I couldn't go. So I said, I'm going to go visit Abe Sensei once, and when I went, I got to, train at Abe Sensei's dojo, and that was a whole experience. And it was all thanks to Matsuo Sensei. When I went, I'm sure he was calling every day, "Oh, David's coming. Oh, David's coming. David's coming." So when I got there, I was like, "Oh, David's here. Woo!" And the class started. Several different senseis teach during the week, and obviously I went to Abe Sensei's class, and he started teaching the class, and then it just turned into a private lesson for me. It was just it was like a private session, but everybody was there watching, and of course Abe Sensei can do whatever he wants. But after class, he took me in a little side room in the dojo, and he gave me these works, and there's a couple of O Sensei's waka and some other work, and it was just how generous, how incredibly generous Abe Sensei was, and super funny and humble and all this. So that's I was just very fortunate to be able to train with Abe Sensei, meet Abe Sensei, and have a relationship, and then he was just so generous. You're speechless when you say, "Oh, you should have this one." And one of the things is that each of these, when he's given Shodo to many Tenshin students, and he gives the ones that he thinks will benefit you most. They are for you. It's not just a gift like here's something. It's this is for you, not for anybody else. Anyway, that's the Abe Sensei story.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, since you can switch to mobile, she needs to be let in.
Yeah, that's fine.
I just don't know how to do it.
David, by the way, we are supposed to support show you some practice, but actually running time. So
It's 11 o'clock. Well, it's 5 minutes after 11 if you want to do it quick.
yeah, I mean, you know,
She just needs to be invited to the meeting?
Yeah. Well, she needs to be.
the way
She'll log
the
off from
way
her
Abe
computer.
Sensei
She's on her
I
mobile
was just
device.
inspired.
Well, she should just join them. When she joins, she's going to join the participants like here.
How to make point. How to make point. And point is extended, become line.
Oh, here we go.
You see?
She's-
And then
Okay.
contract the line became point. You see, and how to make a spring motion. So there are few things he always teaching. So and then always he showed for us is
I think
show
you
the
guys
white
should do it. People
paper
can stay.
Okay.
and the sumi ink. I'm very nervous because in front of Abe Sensei, you know, very excuse. And you know, the way he teach to me is first time I was so inspired because what he's doing is on the paper is just like doing kokyu dosa. So do I need this one? No?
Yeah. Still keep that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So sorry, just a moment. Okay. Hello, everyone here. Can you hear me?
Just a second.
Okay.
Yes.
Reverberation.
Oh, there's.
So anyway, you know what he's doing on the paper is exactly
There's some reverberation, maybe.
you know the kokyu dosa. You know.
Yeah, I turned it off.
Okay?
Okay.
Yes. Anyway, again, one more time. This is important point because this is I impressed and Shodo. Because I was interested in how to write in Shodo and I used to learn in school, high school and junior high school. And anyway, my interesting point is Abe Sensei is he write on the paper exactly he dealing with the opponent. Kata dedori, ryo dedori, moro dedori, to control the opponent with the entire body. So and then always first time he taught is always he make a two line. One he explained this at the beginning of the session. So I inspired very much and I was interested.
Thank you for watching this recording of the Doshinokai Foundation's Introduction to Shodo and the introduction to the artwork of Abe Seiseki Sensei. I'd like to apologize for the intermittent quality of the video. This video, I was trying to make a higher quality video for distributing later, better than the Zoom meeting video, and it didn't work out the way I thought it would. Please follow us on Facebook and doshinokai.org, where you can find updates to current events, to the new events and seminars. Thank you again for watching.